Japan's lush fields and forests, farmers grow valuable crops. Their ingenuity and grit yield bountiful harvests and boost Japanese agricultural exports globally. Let's see how Japanese farmers reap thousands of tons of produce. Udo, an edible wild plant, is native to various parts of Japan. It's been a springtime delicacy since ancient times. Udo is split into two types, Yamaudo and Nankodo. Both sprout from early spring until around April. However, their appearances are quite different. Yamaudo is green and wild-looking, while Nankodo is white. These visual differences relate to their growing environments. Yamaudo has thick, fleshy stems, 60 to 90 centimeters long and 2 to 5 centimeters wide. Despite its growth potential, Yamaudo is harvested young for its tender stems. Nankaudo, on the other hand, is cultivated using a light shielding farming method. Udo is harvested after 40 days when it reaches about 70 centimeters tall. The peak harvest season typically runs from December to April. With Udo plants only about 1 meter high, underground harvesting is challenging. Constant squatting leads to leg and back issues for many farmers. Farmers carefully cut and wrap the Udo to remove it from the tunnel. Another person waits outside to lift the wooden box of harvested Udo. Post-harvest timing is crucial as Udo quickly turns green in sunlight. Farmers now grow and harvest Udo indoors to minimize weather effects. Tachikawa's booming Udo industry quickly gained popularity, yielding about 450 tons annually. Udo's flavor changes perceptions of wild vegetables. While wild veggies often taste bitter, Udo can be enjoyed raw. Biting fresh Udo produces a crunch, with subtle sweetness spreading in your mouth. Its crisp, refreshing taste lingers pleasantly. That's why Udo became Tachikawa's specialty. Now let's visit Lake Kasumigaura, Japan's second largest lake. It boasts Japan's largest lotus root production. Fertile lakeside soil and ample water help lotus roots thrive. Lotus roots are harvested from July to March around Lake Kasumigaura. Yearly, all above-water lotus parts are cut to stop further growth. Lotus roots grow underground, dormant in mud, slowly storing starch from summer to winter. This means lotus roots from the same pond area can taste different, depending on when they're harvested. Young summer lotus roots taste as sweet as pears. Farmers harvest until May, when the roots become more flexible as sugar turns to starch. The muddy conditions made the journey tough, and finding lotus roots was no easy task. Farmers said extracting the entire lotus root requires patience and skill. As lotus roots may grow crookedly, farmers must be gentle to avoid breaking them for a good price. On average, each kilogram of lotus root costs about $2.80. The lotus field is about 50 to 60 centimeters deep. Farmers had to kneel in chest-deep water while digging in the mud to harvest. Finding lotus roots. They use water jets to manually search and wash the lotus roots multiple times. This process also prevents damage to the lotus root's outer skin. These carefully handled lotus roots are tasty and visually appealing, adding value. At the processing unit, lotus roots are individually cut and canned. Remkon Sankyodai harvests and ships lotus roots 2 days after receiving orders. Japan is also known for having the most delicious mushrooms. Have you seen millions of shiitake mushrooms growing in a forest? Farmers select 10 to 20 centimeters oak trees, creating ideal conditions for shiitake growth. Oak logs are carefully stacked and moved to the shiitake mushroom cultivation area. Farmers then drill small holes in the wood to implant shiitake mushroom spawn. These holes are spaced about 10 to 15 centimeters apart, depending on the mushroom size. A special tool is used to insert the spawn into each hole at the right depth and position. Each log will yield 2 to 4 crops of shiitake, based on hole size and weather conditions. After inoculation, logs are placed strategically to ensure optimal mushroom growth for harvest. The Japanese typically go into the forest and hand harvest each log individually. Farmers carefully hand-pick shiitake mushrooms from logs. They store the harvested mushrooms in plastic baskets. Full baskets are taken to storage where mushrooms are preserved. Slow growth in nature gives shiitake's rich flavor and nutrients. Wild shiitake farming boosts local economies in Japan. Southern Japan leads in shiitake production at premium prices. Only a limited amount of wild shiitakes can be harvested yearly. Fresh shiitakes are pricey, dried exports cost even more. Upon arrival at the drying facility, shiitake mushrooms are re-inspected to remove any unsuitable ones. Next, soil residue is removed and they're evenly arranged. The drying process occurs under strict control, with proper temperature and time to remove moisture from the mushrooms. This process preserves both flavor and nutrients. Besides delicious shiitake, Japan is also known for lingzi mushrooms. This mushroom has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years. After felling, the log rests for 2 weeks before being drilled. One log can support the growth of 15 Ganoderma mushrooms. The logs are inoculated with Ganoderma and buried underground. Farmers spend considerable time on the entire Ganoderma cultivation process. It takes 9 months before Ganoderma mushrooms become visible. Once fully grown, lingzi can be harvested and processed in various ways. Wonder what sets it apart from millions of other forest mushrooms? Ganoderma's magic lies in compounds locked within its cell walls. Farmers must wait 75 to 90 days for harvest. Interestingly, yield is proportional to tree diameter. A 15 cm diameter trunk produces reishi mushrooms in about 6 years. Larger diameter logs take longer until the first harvest. Harvesting larger logs yields more mushrooms. As lingzi matures, it turns reddish-brown and sheds spores. Mature Ganoderma mushrooms are 2.5 to 10 centimeters thick. Farmers prefer to harvest Ganoderma with white undersides. Late harvested mushrooms can be 2.5 to 10 centimeters thick. Farmers prefer to harvest Ganoderma with white undersides. If harvested late and brown, they've started to decompose. Harvesting is done by holding the root with one hand and pulling it with the other. After washing, Ganoderma mushrooms are dried at temperatures below 50 degrees Celsius. After washing, Ganoderma mushrooms are dried at temperatures below 50 degrees Celsius. Finally, we visit the cabbage fields in Japan. Cabbage is a healthy, nutrient-rich food. Depending on the variety, cabbages are ready for harvest 70 to 115 days after planting. The base of the cabbage will be 10 to 15 centimeters in diameter. The cabbage head should be firm, compact with tightly curled outer leaves. If immediate harvest isn't possible, smaller heads can continue growing for the next harvest. Farmers cut the cabbage head off the stem, leaving some outer leaves for protection during storage. Farmers often harvest in cold weather to maintain freshness and flavor. On large commercial cabbage farms, harvesting is done by automated machines attached to tractors. These machines uproot the entire plant from the soil. The cabbage moves along a conveyor belt. Farmers continue removing damaged outer leaves. Then, cabbages are loaded into containers and await transport to storage warehouses. Farmers operate machines, moving them through cabbage fields for systematic harvesting. Depending on size and capacity, a machine can harvest multiple cabbage rows at once, reducing manual labor. Hello friends. Today we'll visit sweet corn farms across the US to see how millions of corn ears are harvested. In productivity and value, sweet corn is the US's second largest processed crop, behind only tomatoes. In 2021, the sweet corn crop in the US was valued at $777 million. Sweet corn is currently grown in all 50 states. Florida, Washington, Georgia, and California are the top sweet corn producers. Our first stop in this video is a farm in Florida. Here, millions of sweet corn plants are hand-harvested by Mexican and Guatemalan workers. Each October, over 5,000 workers gather at sweet corn farms, earning an average of $17 per hour. Florida is currently the largest sweet corn producing state in the US. In 2021, Florida's sweet corn covered 37,300 acres, yielding 327,000 tons. Next, we'll visit a sweet corn farm in Riverside County, California.
During the day, sweet corn harvest on this farm is done at night. Here, Millions of sweet corn ears are packed in the field after harvest, not in packing plants. According to 2021 statistics, California's sweet corn acreage is about 23,500 acres with a production of about 169,000 tons, representing 16% of total U.S. sweet corn production. The third location we'll visit is a 30-acre sweet corn farm in Washington's Yakima Valley. From 2010 to 2016, Washington led the nation in sweet corn acreage, with about 93,000 acres. Recently, the state's sweet corn area dropped, losing its top producer title to Florida. After harvest, thousands of corn ears are moved to bins via conveyor system. We're now at a Michigan sweet corn farm to see how thousands of corn ears are harvested. Instead of dozens of workers, this machine harvests millions of sweet corn ears on the farm. Michigan currently has 9,500 acres of sweet corn, producing about 71,000 tons annually. After harvest, thousands of sweet corn ears are transported to a warehouse for packaging.